Hey everyone, it's Beverly Hallberg. Welcome to a special pop-up episode of She Thinks, your favorite podcast from the Independent Women's Forum, where we talk with women and sometimes men about the policy issues that impact you and the people you care about most. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tammy Bruce. I'm president of Independent Women's Voice, the sister organization of Independent Women's Forum. And I am joined today by a very special guest who many of you know as Buffy Summers from the 1990s Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, Kristy Swanson. Kristy is an actress and producer. She began her career appearing in numerous commercial campaigns and made her screen debut in an NBC sitcom and then later on in the big screen in Pretty in Pink. She is a multi-award winner. She's a mom and a wife and an outspoken conservative in Hollywood. Kristy, so glad you can join us here for She Thinks. I really appreciate your time. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. Thank you for having me on.
You know, the wonders of technology these days. The word podcast was not even something, we would have thought about in the 90s, right? I mean, it was, I don't know, it's like the 80s. It was about the Walkman, and then we were through with iPods. It's just been an incredible turn of events. So I'm thrilled as a community organizer and as someone who wants to make sure people get to know other individuals to be able to do something like this. Now, what's interesting for us is that we know Hollywood, it seems Hollywood has changed. We think about World War II and very patriotic members of the Hollywood community, people like Clark Gable, John Wayne, Carole Lombard, incredible actors and actresses. We can't say that about today. So when we think about you, we've gotten to know you on social media and you've been very outspoken. Tell us a little bit about your background and how it is that you became a conservative, or at least certainly just not a liberal. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Southern California in a town called Mission Viejo, and I was born in '69, so I grew up in the '70s in California. My parents, both conservatives, and some of my family members liberals, but I grew up in an environment and a time in the world where politics was not an issue. Nobody, if you thought this way, that was fine. If you thought that way, that was fine. Everybody was very, very respectful about it. And I was a kind of a free thinker and a very aware child. And, I just noticed that stuff. And when I got into the business around the age of 9, I'm now in this sort of Hollywood environment and being raised a very conservative girl. And I noticed things were a little bit more liberal in Hollywood than what I sort of grew up with, but it didn't matter. It was fun. I was acting. I was doing my thing. And I remember when I think it was 1981, when President Reagan got shot. I remember seeing that on TV, and that really woke me up to pay more attention. And a few years later, I did this show it's called Call to Glory, with Craig T. Nelson, and it was a big 2-hour movie of the week about the assassination of JFK. So I started getting, more educated about different things that were going on in the world that just grabbed my attention. I thought I should pay more attention. So those things affected me. And when I got into, when I just started getting a little bit older, I was emancipated when I was 14. I graduated at 15. I moved out when I was 16. So I kind of grew up a little bit fast and sort of in an adult world. And I just, even though I couldn't vote at that time, I still was very exposed to politics, but more just curious about, just very highly curious about it. And when it came time for me, to vote when I was 18, I felt I was I should, register as a Republican or a conservative. But I also learned that when I voiced my opinion a little bit in Hollywood, I got a little bit of a sneer or uncomfortableness from people. And I just kind of learned to keep quiet. I just didn't, if I said I liked Bush or I liked Reagan, I got a look, you know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. So I stayed quiet for a long time. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because I think that's the usual state of affairs is that, and not just in Hollywood, but especially in that environment where, and for some reason, because I also grew up in Southern California, and it's kind of like a mining town for the entertainment industry. All other industries are kind of hooked into it, and there is a kind of a sensibility, even though the state did bring the country Ronald Reagan. We recalled the governor, Gray Davis, over the driver's licenses for illegal aliens. So there's still in the West, this is what's kind of surprising to me. The West has always been very independent and wanting people to be able to live and let live. And yet this kind of thing happened. I think influences matter, and you learn pretty quickly. And I think people wonder, especially as a kid in entertainment, did you have education on the set? Who was a big influence for you? For me, it was some teachers. Was it your parents, or did you have a teacher, one teacher, or a particular mentor that you relied on, or was that not around for you?
Well, I left a public school system after 7th grade, and I was homeschooled by my parents. They're both educational, they're both teachers. So they taught me at home.
Okay.
I did, sort of the whole homeschool system before it was popular. Because now today it's very popular. I don't know what influenced me. I
think even that is significant. I think that's significant, Kristy, that you were not put into that system. Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education, and we had the disaster of the 70s. And it seems like that perhaps saved you from that milieu that where you were kind of, a lot of people get indoctrinated. I think that's homeschooling is a significant, has a significant impact on people. That's a remarkable dynamic. Do you think, when you said you learn to kind of not speak up, this goes to this idea that maybe Hollywood is not as liberal as we think, that in fact there's a lot of people who don't speak up? Do you think it's possible that we're kind of being manipulated and that the industry itself is not as liberal as we think, and that there are a lot more conservatives?
Yes, I think it's probably 50-50. To be honest with you, I that's what I've learned. I think it was around 2009 or 2008 I met Andrew Breitbart, and we became pals. And I got into this whole group, the Friends of Abe in LA, that were all in the business, whether they were a craft service person, a lighting guy, a casting director, or actors or directors or producers or studio heads. They were conservative but very quiet, and we'd all get together and have lunches. And that was a great support group.
That's Gary Sinise started that, didn't he?
There was a group of people that did start that, and he was a part of that.
Yeah,
so
I went to a couple of those. It's interesting. I mean, that you're right. It was a spectrum. It was actors, it was crew people. It was very strange that in the modern age, we had to hide, right? That you couldn't. It was literally dangerous to be out. Do you think having a different point of view about politics, did that affect your career, or were you, or did it matter to you? What was your sense about what it did to a career?
Well, I think any decision you make in life on a daily basis affects your life, but I can't prove that I lost a job because I am, I'm conservative or something. I can't really prove that. But I know for myself, I have never not worked with someone or not taken a job just because I knew that person was a liberal or, they're Democrat and they don't support me. I don't think that way. And I just think that it's really important. I know I'm outspoken now today, but I'm a mom. I want to be a good influence on him. I want him to think for himself. I want him to treat others the same way. Like, why can't we all just respect each other's differences? Why does it have to get nasty? Why does anyone go on stage at an award ceremony and bash the president and bash conservative thinkers? I think that that's a really bad message to send to the world. And I don't do it to others. I don't know why they're doing it to us. And that's what I just don't, I just want to stop that. It just breaks my heart.
Well, because I agree completely. I love movies. We know that attendance at film is plummeting. We know that the ratings, the award shows are really marketing for theater, with the Tonys, with the Emmys, with television, of course, the Oscars. People have really stopped watching. And I think this kind of creativity is imperative for a good life. That this kind of artistry and artists themselves, just being has an impact on the nature of America. Without all of this, as you've noted, this hostility and anger. But so in a way, everything is political. Do you think, and again, I think in all work, there's politics, like the choices we make. Do you think that there's any right place for politics in our work of how we would bring it in? Maybe it's just the hostility that's the problem. But is there a right and wrong place for politics?
Yes, I don't think that, when I go shoot a movie and we're on set, I don't think I should be outspoken with everyone on set about, how much I don't like this guy or how much I like that guy. I think that we should all, kind of go to work and keep to ourselves if we want to talk with a buddy on set and have lunch about maybe what's going on, in current events in politics. I think that that's perfectly fine. But I've noticed I'll be in the hair and makeup trailer and someone comes in and goes, "Oh my God, Trump is such a blah, blah, blah," and it's just this negative energy. And I don't think they realize how many people they could be who don't want to hear, maybe they don't want to hear that. I'm at work. I'm learning my lines. I've got to go on set. I don't want to hear your anger about, what you saw on the news this morning. I think that we should be respectful in the workplace. We do it at Thanksgiving dinner when we get together with our, family and friends that we're all different thinkers, but we don't talk politics at the Thanksgiving table, right? Because it could get ugly. You never know. So I think that we should be respectful in the workplace. I think that on the red carpet at a movie premiere, unless the movie is about politics, then talk about it. But if you're just promoting, whatever, I'm trying to think of a movie off the top of my head, but if you're promoting a movie and doing the red carpet and doing interviews, leave politics out of it. If I did talking about how much I like Trump, I would get, my producers would be like, "Why are you talking about Trump when we're trying to promote a movie?" You know what I mean? So I think there's a time and there's a place, and think about that seriously.
Yeah, it's also about respect for the audience. I mean, part of the artistry of being a performer is for the audience to be able to. You're blank enough of a slate to where audiences can project upon you any character in a believable way, that you could be a vampire, right? Or you could be an astronaut, or you could be something entirely different than your normal life. When you bring in the details of our daily lives, which we're trying to escape, no matter what you think of politicians, it shatters that wall that is necessary for us to be able to suspend disbelief. Now, we at the Independent Women's Voice, we have a project called Champion Women, and it's at championwomen.com. it continues to grow, and it's really based on the theme that you've been discussing, which is that women coming together, treating each other with civility and respect, because that's, of course, as women, when we want respect, we deal with violence against women, those things don't discriminate. It doesn't care, who you voted for, what your party is. And there's a petition that our listeners can sign at championwomen.com. And the argument is, of course, it's time to stop, in particular, shaming and attacking women. We've seen women who've worked for the Trump administration being targets. We know in society women in general are targets. You have been on the receiving end of death threats, of sexualized violence comments. It's an extraordinary thing to watch. It's meant, of course, to silence you. How has that impacted your life when you receive something like that in public and through social media?
Well, there's going to be haters and ugly people out there. I try to handle it the best I can in a classy way, or be funny about it. Try to laugh it off. I don't think it's right, to be talked to the way that I'm talked to many times. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I just know that we need to, I don't even think I would be as vocal as I am. If they weren't bashing the guy I like so much, I probably wouldn't be as vocal as I am about, like I stick up for him, because I do think he's a great president. But yet I don't get the same respect back. And that's one issue. But then the other thing is, like, I think that there's, like we were talking about before, about there's a time and a place. And, I'm an actor. I do movies, and it's all, interesting kind of life that I have. But I'm a mom. I'm a person. I'm a concerned citizen. I care about our country. And I think it's okay for me to be myself and think freely the way that I want. And I should, just be respected for that. And it should just go both ways, And,
a lot of people
I don't know if anyone's listening.
Well, I think not only are they in general, I see your influence on social media. There's a power to simply not retreating, because, that's the goal, of course. They know they can't compete with you if they were to talk about the details of the issues. So they need people, and you in particular as an example, other conservatives, people like Dean Cain. Gary Sinise has been, very obvious in his patriotism and non-liberalism, let's say. And that's what's frustrating, is simply being present. You were doing a play with Dean called FBI Lovebirds Undercover, right? And you actually, things were so aggressive, you guys actually had to change venues in order to continue. What was that about?
Well, what happened was it came out in there's a press release that the FBI Lovebirds play, the play reading of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page's text messages and their testimonials. And Dean was playing Peter and Strzok, and I was playing Lisa Page. And immediately a tweet came out when that press release came out, because I saw the press release and then I saw some tweets underneath it. And there was this one that said, lock the doors and burn down the theater, or something like that. I don't have it in front of me, but it was, basically burn down the theater full of people watching it and the people in it. And I shared it with a friend of mine who used to be a cop and Secret Service, and I said, what do I do with this? Is a threat. What do I do? Oh, you have to report it, and this is serious. And I said, well, should I repost it so that my followers see it, so they will report it too? We have to get it taken down. This is violent. And he said, yeah, that's a good idea. Do that. Then the next thing I know, it's a story in the media. It was, one threat, but still, I didn't expect for that to happen. And then now it's it's out there in the public, and now the theater doesn't want us to do our play in their theater. At least that's the excuse that they used, was because of the death threat. And and as it turned out, we had to change venues, which ended up costing more money. But the show, it's that typical Hollywood, the show must go on. So the show went on, and we did the play. And, we had to have security and all that stuff. But it worked out better because we were in a federal building where there was, metal detectors. And so we actually had higher security than we ever would have to begin with. Yeah. And here I am, I'm just an actor playing, I'm playing her as written by her, Lisa Page. It's like she wrote all this dialogue, basically. It's what she texted. It's her congressional, testimonies. So I'm just playing a role. It's not like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it other than it's just craziness.
It goes back to, and that got extremely good reviews. It went very, very well, and it's a great idea. And it's one of those things again where it's bringing to light the nature of what's really going on, because each day there's so much news, people can feel overwhelmed. And once again, you as a performer are simply doing your job. You are not retreating. You're doing something that's newsworthy, that is an event everyone's speaking about. And that is, it's so threatening, Kristy, because it makes a difference just standing as a role model to others, that being yourself matters. And it sounds like that's what you're also teaching your son, that it's a matter of role modeling, that you don't have to, and it doesn't mean that you have to become an activist or obnoxious like the opposition or the people attacking you. No. It's the simplest thing in the world. It's just about being yourself, and especially as a woman, not retreating. You have been, besides speaking about your politics, of course we know for you from Southern California, from the West, this is the border, and immigration matters to all of us, of course, across the country, but it's particularly a part of what we experience in the Southwest. You, in fact, you went to the border at one point. We know, of course, the president's feeling, all of our feelings, that this is a national emergency. It's certainly a national health emergency. We see migrants' lives being destroyed because of this environment and being used as props by the American left. When you went down there, what did you experience? Why did you do it? And what can you tell everyone about what you saw there at the border when you went?
That was a lot to take in, to go do that. There's so many layers to the border and how it works. I went because I wanted to educate myself. I went because Chief Rodney Scott wanted to educate me about it and help me understand a little deeper. Because, I'm from Southern California. I've seen my state go through so many changes because of our border. My husband's Canadian. He came here to America on his own merit, not because we got married, but on his own merit. And I think that people should come to our country legally. And so I just have a passion for that, and I just wanted to be more educated about it. So that if, anybody wants to talk about it, I have something to say. And when I got down there, I just learned that there's so many layers to what's going on, and the finances of it, our relationship with Mexico. I learned we are friendly with Mexico. A lot of people think that we're not. I learned that we are. I saw the wall that they're building, that they're adding on to, fixing, how they want to go further with it. If people are running across the border and just coming in on, and then getting free stuff from us, why would we not build a wall? It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. If they're taking advantage, we've got to shut it down. We've got to fix it. And, I was very impressed with them down there. I was very impressed with everyone that I met, the hard work that they're doing. And they really wanted to let me see how overwhelmed they are. They really, truly are, and they need our help, and they need our support.
Well, it's a fascinating time we live in. Every American generation has had its challenge and its project, if you will. And our generation's issue is this. I think we're in the middle of a reformation with President Trump. And, of course, as things begin to change for the better, there's even more hostility and panic on a side that, many people I don't think they mean harm, but there has been such an effort to kind of condition and manipulate. A lot of people believe some of the things they're hearing. This is another reason why, for those who are promulgating the misinformation, standing up, you've got a national and international platform, and speaking up becomes, of course, the threat. And I think a lot of, look, I'm still a registered Democrat, hailing from a Los Angeles native. I was on the left, and, I think most Americans, are in this framework of being center-right and just want people to be able to live their lives. As you described when we first started talking about what it used to be like. And Americans are still there. I think all of this is kind of a false front. Now, every day you're making decisions about how to live your life. You've got a complicated life like most Americans. You are a mom, you're a wife, you're a professional, you're an entrepreneur, you're a creative person. As we close here, what for all the women and men listening, and this podcast is available, of course, to everyone, around the world. They're very popular, and people are going to love hearing from you. What do you want to say to our listeners? What message do you want to impart to them with everything going on in our lives?
I want to. Well, the one thing that I get the most people ask me, how do you do it? How do you get? How do you just be you? I said that you just got to be. You just got to do it. Don't be afraid. But it's hard for me to tell people that because some people, they don't want to lose their job or they don't want, but if they can find fellowship with other conservatives or like-minded people or, or even those liberal friends, I know so many liberals that are not whacked out, you know what I mean? Like they are reasonable people, but there's anything on the extreme, whether it's extreme right or extreme left, is extreme. And I think anything extreme is something we want to stay away from. I'm up the center, I teeter to the right, and that's who I am, and I'm not going to lie about it, and I'm just going to be myself. And so I'd like to just encourage people to, just be you, be a free thinker. We don't have to agree on everything. We're always going to disagree, but let's, kindness changes everything. Let's be kind about our differences. I guess.
That's wonderful. That's a great message, and it also will improve everyone's lives. I feel sorry at this point for people on the left who are so bitter and poisoned by hate. It's their lives that are lost. I mean, it makes it irritating for us, but their lives are lost. And that's a message that can improve everyone's lives. Where can people find you? Now, we know you're on social media. Give us where people can find you on social media and any other information where people can hook in with what it is you're up to.
Well, my Twitter is at Kristy Swanson XO. And then my Instagram is the same, at Kristy Swanson XO. And that's pretty much where I am. I don't really do a whole lot of Facebook. I have a website, but I don't update it very much. I'm not very good at that stuff. I'm not the most computer savvy, but I do, I do little updates every day of what I'm doing and what I'm thinking on Twitter and Instagram. So that's where I'm at.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And again, it's this modern technology. I know we complain about social media a lot, but the fact of the matter is we are able to reach a lot of people at once, people that maybe normally in the old world would, when you're on television and there's 3 networks and you had to write postcards and you didn't have access to broad bases of people, this social media environment has changed all of that. And Kristy, your voice, as we speak with and wrap up here with Kristy Swanson, certainly you know her as an actress, but her life is multi-layered and is impacted by all of this as we are as well. Your voice from an industry that is particularly under siege, as a creative woman, as someone we grew up with, is invaluable. And you've taken a lot of time with us today here on the She Thinks podcast, and I just want to thank you. I know the listeners love you, and I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, I'm a big fan of you, Tammy. You're awesome.
Well, thank you. It's an exciting time. Our pleasure. Everyone, we hope you enjoyed today's conversation with actress and producer Kristy Swanson. And if you enjoyed this episode of She Thinks, or like the podcast in general, we'd love it if you would take a moment to leave us a rating or a review on iTunes. This helps ensure our message reaches as many Americans as possible. Share this episode and let your friends know they can find more She Thinks episodes on their favorite podcast app. From all of us here, you're in control. And I think you think and she thinks. Everyone, thank you very much. And thank you again, Kristy.